Am I the bad guy for bringing the entire jar of Nutella and bag of rice cakes after she asked for a rice cake with Nutella? My wife and I have this ongoing debate, where she would ask for a snack when we were watching TV or whatever, and let's just say she asked for tea and a rice cake with Nutella, which she did today. I told her that I will bring her the Nutella jar, a knife and the bag of rice cakes, and she would say never mind then, I want nothing. But in my mind, what is so wrong with bringing the whole thing, not just the rice cakes, but with snacks in general? It's an issue if I bring the whole thing instead of just one or a few unless she specifically asked for the whole bag. She used grilled cheese as an example. She said if I asked for a grilled cheese would you bring me a block of cheese and a loaf of bread? I pointed out that it was a bad example but to her it's a perfect example. So which is it? Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for making a dad joke? My stepdaughter Madeline is currently 15, and she's rebelling for almost everything. She did something bad, so while picking her up, I set up a punishment for her. Then she said you're not my dad, I don't have to follow you. Honestly, I got a bit hurt from that, but I understand that she didn't mean it, and that she'd probably change. I just replied, I'm still your legal guardian for the next 3 years, and as long as you're in my house, you have to follow my rules. That happened about 2 days ago, so our family was going grocery shopping. When Madeline said I'm hungry, I need food, I decided to be extremely cheeky and say hi hungry, I'm not your dad. My son just started to laugh uncontrollably. My daughter was just quiet with embarrassment, and my wife was berating me not to stoop down to her level. I honestly thought it was a funny dad joke, and my son agrees. So am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for getting my coworker fired? One of my coworkers verbally challenged my normal behavior around another coworker, and it became something I spoke about to my manager in a criticizing way. The manager was taken aback but quietly fired the coworker the next day without any notice, even though I didn't ask for it. I'm incredibly satisfied yet feel 100% responsible, even though they were being a complete jerk with the confrontation and language that they used. So am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for telling my mother-in-law that I don't want my 2.5-year-old to go into the bathroom with her? I noticed that my mother-in-law invites my son to go into the bathroom whenever she goes. It seems weird to me, but my wife doesn't see anything wrong with it. I understand if my mother-in-law is taking him in to go to the bathroom as we are still potty training, but she brings him in with her when she has to go. I told my wife that it seems weird to me. Am I the only one that finds this weird? Am I the bad guy for flipping off a group of children for fat shaming? This morning I went to Starbucks to do some homework. As I got out of my car and began to walk, I heard loud giggling and shouting coming from the car next to me. From the car, someone yelled out "Run, fatty, run," followed by oinking noises. I wasn't too offended, but it was crude enough to warrant flipping the bird behind me as I continued into the store. Before I got to the door, a lady came out and started berating me for flipping off her kids. In her defense, she didn't hear what happened before I flipped the bird. In my defense, I was too caught up in the moment to process that it was a young kid's voice. I didn't apologize to the woman. I told her what her kids had said, and if they were old enough to berate a woman for her weight, they're old enough to get a middle finger. She just scoffed and told me I was a rotten lady. I told her she should teach her kids some kindness before they turn out as rotten as me. Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for stabbing my lunch with a fork? So sometimes I don't have any leftovers, can't be bothered to cook, or I'm just lazy, so instead I buy lunch for work. Sometimes it's a frozen meal, and when I'm going to put it in the microwave at work, I do as it says on the package, stab some holes in the plastic with a fork before putting it in the microwave. So I do that a few times. It kinda sounds like when you pop bubble wrap, and it apparently scares my coworker. She says I stab it too hard and too much and I'm scaring her. It just takes a few seconds, so I think she should live with it, but am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for asking about someone's ear? I started a new job yesterday at a higher scale establishment. There was a member in there who seemed pretty cool and chilled with us the whole day. The whole time I thought he was wearing an earring, and I noticed something happened to his ear. So I asked my co-workers. They got mad at me, saying I wasn't allowed to ask about members. I was kinda confused because yesterday they were telling me who had Alzheimer's and dementia, but they got upset when I asked about his ear. I tried to say I didn't mean it in malice or a rude way, and that it was my second day, and they asked me why I even cared, and it shouldn't even take my second day to know that it's rude to ask about people. I proceeded to tell them I always get asked about my leg, and I just thought it was a good conversation starter. Also, they honestly seemed more upset than the member did. It could be because he's one of the younger members, but I honestly didn't mean it in a rude way. So am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for refusing to go to my best friend's wedding? My best friend is getting married on a private island in the Caribbean next month. I'm really happy for her, but I'm not looking forward to the wedding. Long flight to get there, just for a party where I won't have that much one-on-one time with my friend, and I don't know a lot of the other people there. I've tried to talk to my friend about my concerns, but she just says I'm being selfish. She's even offered to pay for my flight and hotel, but I still don't want to go. I feel like I'm being a bad friend for not wanting to attend her wedding, especially since she's going to so much trouble to make it special. But I also feel like I have a right to not want to go somewhere. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for moving someone's trolley so I could get past? I was at the supermarket with my family. We browsed around after dinner with no particular goal. In the end, we didn't want anything. As we headed out, I ended up in a different lane to them. There was a guy filling his trolley with it parked long ways. There was no space to move past. I said excuse me softly, but he mustn't have heard. When he didn't move, I moved his trolley a little bit so I could get past the end. I must have moved his trolley maybe 20 centimeters, and the front was still against the counter, so he could keep packing. I was halfway out of the shop when he jeered at me, and said some choice words like I had deeply offended him. I was very shocked and I turned around to take a photo. He then proceeded to flip his middle finger. I understand if I was in the supermarket walking along and someone grabbed my trolley I would be offended, but he was so engrossed in his packing that he did not hear me trying to get past, and obviously I didn't want to touch him. Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for not making eggs for my husband when I was already cooking? So I was about to make a dish which requires eggs last night for my daughter, and I asked my husband if he wanted some. He said no, but he'd love some fried eggs on toast. I told him I wasn't making fried eggs on toast. I was making eggy rice, and if he wanted something else, he'd have to make it. Later, my husband went into the kitchen, slamming cabinets. I ask him what's up, and he snaps at me that I'm selfish for only cooking for myself. I told him I wasn't just cooking for myself, but our daughter wanted eggy rice, so I made it for her and myself, and that I had asked him if he wanted some too, but he'd said no. Now he's pissy with me about it, since it would have taken minimal effort for me to cook another super simple dish while I was already cooking, which is true, but it was not what I was cooking. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for parking next to a car that parked on the line? Tonight, I drove to CVS to pick up popcorn for a Christmas movie with my kids. I parked in the closest open parking spot to the door. When I got out, I noticed the car next to mine was very close. I had to squeeze through a cracked door just to get out. I double-checked to see if I parked poorly, and I was right in the middle of the spot. However, the car next to me was on the line. Not over the line, but the wheels were touching the line. I didn't think much of it. My kids were waiting and I wanted to get in and get out. When I came back, the owner of the other car was checking for possible dings, presumably from my car door opening. They were about to get in when they saw me walk up to them. Then, we had this interaction. Them, is this your car? Me, yes, it is. Them, why did you park next to me when there are so many other spots? Me, I just parked in the closest spot to the store. Them, you're so close to my car when you could have parked anywhere else. Me, I'm parked in the middle of the spot and you're on the line. Them, if I ding your car with my door, it's more your fault than mine. Me, your car is on the line. Them, that's not really relevant. I never would have thought to check if the cars on the other side of me had parked well before I pulled in. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for getting engaged after my brother's wedding? My brother and his wife got married 3 days ago. A very small destination ceremony, under 15 people total. My now fiancé and I extended our trip after everyone went home and spent a couple of days exploring the Grand Canyon, a couple hours north of the wedding, where he proposed. When I shared the news with my brother and now sister-in-law, he responded with hostility, saying that it looked like we were competing. I apologized, quickly realizing that he was advocating for my sister-in-law and that she felt hurt. I also texted her a separate apology, and explained that it was not our intent to encroach, and just wanted to share the news with family, and that it's my belief that there's room for happiness for everyone. She did not respond. In response to my apology, my brother doubled down and said the timing and location were hurtful, and that we shouldn't have planned around the wedding. Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for writing my siblings out of my will? My brother and sister have lived very far from me for a long period of time, going on over a decade now. They never bothered to include me as a sibling growing up, and have continued the tradition into adulthood. Contact is sparse at best, and only when initiated by a mutual third party, never voluntary on their end, and all attempts from me are ignored. I have received a medical diagnosis that isn't looking good, and I wanted to ensure that, should the worst come, my affairs would be in order over the next few years. I updated my living will recently and struck them from it, barring them from receiving anything, instead leaving assets to my parents with instructions on their provisioning. Friends have told me that I'm being harsh and I should include them, but I hardly know them anymore, and any interactions have been largely negative over the past 10-15 years. I could care less what happens after I'm gone, but I don't want what I worked hard for to go to them. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for honking at a driver that stopped in the oncoming lane's mid-left turn for a pedestrian? Recently, I had a bit of an argument with my stepdad while driving. I was the one driving when this happened. There was a driver from the other side of the road in the center left turn lane, and they were turning left. If they didn't stop in the middle of the road, then everything would have been fine, but they ended up stopping in the middle of the travel lanes. I ended up having to brake decently hard to avoid T-boning them. It really frightened me, and in response, I honked at them. But the thing is, they were stopping because of a crossing pedestrian. Then, my stepdad gets pissed at me for honking, calling me an asshole, saying that they were just letting the pedestrian through, and not running the pedestrian over. He even accused me of trying to urge that driver to just run over the pedestrian. On one hand, I can fully understand that one would want to let a pedestrian through. I'd want drivers to stop for me and not hit or endanger me. But I counter-argue that with this, if the other driver couldn't clear the driveway by the time the pedestrian would reach it, then they should have stayed in the CLTL and waited for the pedestrian to get fully across, even if that means having to wait even longer for a gap in oncoming traffic. If I were that other driver, that's what I would have done. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for joking that I wished British people were real? I was watching a comedic British show with my friend Garly, and we were having fun and making jokes and stuff like that. I said I love this show. I wish British people were real, as a joke. Obviously, it was supposed to be unserious and stupid, but Garly gave me a weird look. She said that's a weird thing to say. I was taken aback because she's seen me make much weirder jokes than that, and I had no idea why she was hung up on this one. But I apologized and told her it was a joke. And I obviously didn't think British people are not real. I followed up by saying that on a serious note I like British culture, otherwise I wouldn't be watching this show. She asked how I would have felt if she said Korean people weren't real. I'm Korean. I told her I would also take it as a joke as long as you're not offending me or my food or whatever. She scoffed and just kept watching. I didn't know this joke could be insensitive. I mean, I know it's kind of a stupid joke, but I didn't know it could offend like that. She's not even British, so I'm doubting myself on whether this was offensive or not. Am I the bad guy for touching someone's foot at the movie theater? The place was mostly empty. Two people sit down behind me. One of them puts their feet, no shoes, yes socks, on the headrest to my right, under a foot away from my face. After a bit I realize, and without thinking I move it because it's just instinctively disgusting. Then there's a bit of yelling for like a minute. After a while, they left, and later an employee came to ask me to step outside, and then asked me to leave, which I did without arguing and as politely as I could because they're just doing their job. Genuinely curious, am I the bad guy here? I feel like they're in the wrong for putting their disgusting feet near someone's face while they're eating, but obviously I'm biased to agree with myself. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister that my nephew is not my baby? My sister, 23 female, lives at home and has a 6-month-old baby. She never moved in with her boyfriend, because they live far from each other and neither of them wanted to compromise. Her baby daddy never ever comes around, He's seen their son probably less than 30 days total of his entire life. Because of this, my sister has been treating me, 21 female, and my mum as his other parent. She expects free childcare constantly while she works and whatnot, and gets very upset when I act hesitant about it for whatever reason, because she doesn't want to send him to daycare. I love my nephew to death, but these are my child-free college years. I have been parentified and forced to play mommy for my little siblings for years, and just when they're getting to the age that they don't need me so much, I don't think I should be forced to step up and play mommy to another child who isn't mine, especially when I'm on winter break for the next couple of weeks, and just want to enjoy sleeping in way too late, and being lazy before I am thrown back into full-time college. So when she asked if I'd watch him tomorrow, I got a bit of an attitude, but ultimately said yes. But to that she got snappy with me, and was like, "Why do you always act like you don't want to do it?" To which I got upset and responded, "Because he's not my kid and I shouldn't be expected to do this all the time." She got very angry at me, and is now not talking to me at all, and is surely going to weaponize my nephew against me, and to an extent, I understand her anger. I know that you should be able to rely on your village, and I don't know if I'm in the wrong for not wanting to do this. But I am so tired of taking care of other people's children all the time for free. Even if I love the kids to death, I can't tell if I'm being selfish or not. Am I the bad guy here? Am I the bad guy for refusing to sign my neighbor's use of yard waiver? Last Thursday, my neighbors approached my wife regarding a use of yard waiver, since they don't have the clearance to move excavators and bobcats to their backyard to build a pool. The waiver states they need 10 feet of clearance. 4 feet would be into a yard based on my measurements, and they would repair the grass to its original state. I have an irrigation system and internet lines which run beneath the area which would be used. The neighbors were leaving for Florida and asked for a 48-hour turnaround. I spoke to the pool company on Friday, and the project manager said they need 10 to 12 feet, and they need the waiver because there is a good chance the ground will be totally torn up. It was my wife's 30th birthday this weekend, so this situation was not top of mind, but my neighbor knocked on the door Saturday afternoon, asking for a response. I kindly explain I am not comfortable signing the current waiver given the typos, lack of notarization, and ambiguities regarding repairs. He takes it personally and storms out of the house complaining about how much money he is going to lose. Today, the project manager from the pool company knocked on our door, asking what they can do to resolve this. I told him I really don't want my yard torn up, but at minimum a new waiver needs to be drafted, and I would consider it. He then says we have an electrical easement which runs 1.5 feet into a yard in the exact spot he wants to use, and would just call for access. I check my plat design and deed to see there is not any easement running through the area they need. He leaves and the situation is still up in the air. Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for not allowing a newborn at my birthday? I'm having a 30th birthday party. It's ladies only and asking people not to bring SOS or kids. It's not going to be a rager, but I want it to be a fun night to let loose a little, laugh and have fun. A friend of mine just had a baby. Her baby will be 1 month exactly the day of the party. It seems she thinks she should be able to bring her baby. However, I am leaning towards sticking to my request of no children, which means she won't be able to come. From what I hear, she's upset and doesn't think this is fair. She wants to bring her baby. Now this may be selfish, but I know that bringing the baby will impact the vibes of the party. The focus will be on the baby instead of enjoying our time together. I know that no one else there will obviously be offended or anything like that. I too am a mum. If I was in her shoes I would just not go and leave it at that. And if I'm being really honest, I want this day to be about my birthday, not her baby. I do feel guilty, but I'm a people pleaser. Also, I want to add, if the roles were reversed, she would 100% ask people not to bring babies as well. She's actually done this in the past. I'd like to know, 1, should I just comply or stick to my no kids rule? Would I be the bad guy for not texting my mum when I walk to Starbucks in the morning? I'm currently living with my parents, where there is a Starbucks a 5-minute walk away. The past couple days I've been walking there in the morning, when they first open, to get a coffee. Usually in the morning I drink a coffee then immediately take a short nap. Yesterday, my mum woke up while I was taking said nap, and immediately ran into my bedroom to check if I got home. She's now insisting that I need to text her whenever I walk to Starbucks, so she knows I'm safe. I told her that I felt like that was excessive, but she disagreed and told me I couldn't keep walking there unless I did. I have ADD, and when I was younger, I had a hard time paying attention when crossing the street. I haven't had that problem in years at this point, and I literally work in a parking lot now where I have never had an issue. Would I be in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for secretly getting my wife health insurance? She feels like it's a waste of money, but I know how financially exposed we are with her uninsured. She didn't see the value. I did, so I signed her up for it last year and didn't tell her. I didn't tell her because we generally keep our finances separate, and I knew she'd be too proud to let me pay for it, but she wouldn't pay for it herself, so I signed her up and didn't tell her. I've been paying for it ever since. My worries were confirmed today when she opened an invoice, and I told her what I've been up to. She's pissed. Am I in the wrong?
Am I the bad guy for carrying my helmet around college, instead of leaving it on my cycle? So I cycle to college every day and I also wear a helmet. When I reach campus, I don't leave my helmet with my bike. Instead, I tie it to the top handle of my backpack and carry it around with me all day. We don't have any locker service available on campus, so I cannot store it anywhere safe either. I never bring the helmet or cycling into the conversation, but I am aware that it makes me stand out a bit, as it's pretty visible hanging from my bag. Recently, though, a professor made a subtle comment during class that kind of implied I was being pretentious for carrying the helmet around. He didn't say it directly, but it felt like a dig. I wasn't given a chance to respond. Since then, I have been wondering if maybe I am doing something wrong or drawing unnecessary attention. I have always been someone who prefers staying under the radar, but this situation has made me feel self-conscious, like I'm unintendedly being extra just carrying a helmet. So now I'm torn between doing what works for me versus avoiding the attention it brings. So am I the bad guy or am I just overthinking? Am I the bad guy for telling my stepdaughter to stop borrowing my clothes? My 35 female stepdaughter 19 female is an amazing person. She's kind, smart, and beautiful. But every time she borrows clothing of mine, if it's not washed, it smells like sweaty body odor. For the clothes that do get washed before I get them back, there is a different problem, as sometimes there are stains. I told her to stop borrowing my clothes in a gentle way. At first, I phrased it like a question and I said please. I expected a kind response, but she told me no and she called me selfish. Then I outright told her, and she called me a bad word. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for wanting Pokemon cards? I, 20 male, work at a homeless shelter, and a couple of days ago, me and another co-worker were talking about the rooms available we have and the process of taking people in. We have a room that was turned into a storage closet and I had talked to her about maybe decluttering the room and seeing if we could better organize it. Tonight I decided to go into the room to see what was all in there. TVs, cane, walkers, boxes and a tall metal storage closet with games on top. Well, something caught my eye and it said Pokemon, which I collect for fun, and I brought the box down. Inside I found a GX Pokemon set which goes for $300. The price of which it goes is amazing and this would help me with bills since I only work part-time and have rent, but I would just love to own something that's valuable in my eyes. However, considering where I work, this might be seen as selfish or me being in a hole for thinking about myself in this particular moment. I'm not sure if I should reach out to my boss about this item which I know has been sitting on the shelf for a long time. So would I be the bad guy for simply asking to have this Pokemon card set? Am I the bad guy if I go to a concert without my boyfriend? I bought tickets for a concert earlier this year. We are now 2 weeks away from the show and my boyfriend is telling me that he doesn't want to go, and he doesn't want me to go either. His reasoning for not wanting to go is his anxiety and not wanting to feel uncomfortable. He has anxiety in big crowds, so I made sure to get us VIP section tickets so we wouldn't have to deal with a huge crowd while still being able to enjoy the show. When I try to bring up the issue with how much money I spent, he told me it's just money, and he's also wasted a lot of money over the years. The tickets were $1,000 in total, plus the room I booked is non-refundable. Full disclosure, when I brought up the concert in January, he was hesitant and said he didn't want to go, but since It wasn't going to be happening until later in the year. He agreed to go with me, so I got the tickets because two of our favorite artists are playing together. Would I be the bad guy if I went without him? Am I the bad guy for selling a Pokemon card and using it on other cards? I didn't like the size of my collection, so I sold a $2,500 card. I worked really hard to get so I could have a bigger collection. My wife got mad at me for not using the money on our family. She is comparing it to her using the 20 grand she got from her car accident on us. The way I thought about it was that it was practically a trade because I used money from cards to put back into cards. Am I in the wrong? Am I the bad guy for moving my neighbor's bike out of my doorway? I live in a small apartment building with 4 units. Last week, my upstairs neighbor started storing their bike in the hallway right in front of my door. It was blocking my way and I've already tripped over it twice. I asked them politely to move it, and they said it's just temporary, but it's still there a week later. I moved it against the wall so I could pass, and now they are mad at me for touching their property. Am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy for wanting one night away from my husband? My husband thinks I am the bad guy for wanting to spend one night away by myself. Approximately 2 hours from home in a cabin at Hot Springs. My husband works night shifts anyway, and our days off do not coincide this week. I feel like having a night away, alone roughly once per year to rest and recharge. Am I the bad guy?
Would I be the bad guy if I sold my friend's gift or returned it to them? A friend gifted me a science fiction book because according to them, it seems like I'm into science fiction as they've seen me post books like that. That confused me because I never did that and don't even have any science fiction books. I mostly read mystery, thriller and non-fiction. That disappointed me too because I felt like they didn't know me at all. Sometimes, I post the books I read online, which they always see because they always interact with my posts. So it wouldn't be hard to know which genres I'm into. I appreciate the fact that they gifted me something, but I don't appreciate the gift itself. I can't help feeling disappointed because when I gift others, I make sure that it's the specific kind they'll like and not just whatever. I decided to give the book a chance because I might like it. One of my favorite shows is science fiction, after all. But after reading the synopsis, I was like, nope, I'm not into it. It involves an alien romance with a human, and I'm not up for that. I have some books that I actually want to read crammed in my bookshelf. So now, I'm thinking about selling it. But I feel guilty about it because I'd be profiting from their gift. I thought about returning to them and very kindly explaining why. Though that seems odd. Before anyone says that my friends spent money on it, the book used to be theirs. They have an online shop of pre-loved books, so I think they're just trying to get rid of the one they gave me. Would I be the bad guy if I sold or returned the book?
Am I the bad guy for refusing a gift? My husband and I were visiting my in-laws. We were getting ready to leave, and I noticed my mother-in-law had a bunch of old coffee cups on the table. She's had these cups for years. She said that I should take them home, because I didn't have enough cups for everyone, referring to the time I had the whole family over for the weekend. I said no thanks, and she kept insisting. Eventually I said I don't want old cups, and she stopped. I felt bad saying it, but did it to get my point across. A lot of our things are hand-me-downs, and have slowly been getting nicer things as the old ones break. I don't want to be stuck with these cups that I don't like. She's done stuff like this before. She's come over to visit us and left us a whole lot of snacks. We're big on snacks and we appreciated the gesture, until we realized everything she brought was long expired. I recognized some of the stuff she brought from their own pantry. I think she took the visit as an opportunity to clear out her pantry of stuff they don't want. For my birthday one year, she gave me a cookbook that's been sitting on her shelf for ages. I don't even like cooking. I feel like she doesn't think about what I want or like. Am I the bad guy for refusing the gift? Am I the bad guy for eating the last slice of pizza, even though my roommate said they were saving it? We ordered a pizza together, and I went to grab a slice before leaving the kitchen. My roommate had said earlier they were saving the last piece for later. I didn't think they'd actually hold it that long, so I ate it. Now they're mad and saying I'm selfish. I feel like it's just food and not a big deal. Am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy if I charge my friend for a cake? It's my friend's birthday and a few days and months ago, she asked me to bake and decorate her birthday cake. She knows that I regularly bake and sell cakes, so I have lots of experience in that area. I said yes, because I have never baked her birthday cake before. At the time she said she would pay me for the cake and I said sure, no problem. A few months later we were still talking about me making the cake for her and I was asking for design and flavor ideas, which were all good, other than the fact she wanted a different shaped cake and I would have to buy a new cake pan and some other decorations to go on it. Last week we were again talking about her cake, her birthday being in 2 weeks' time at this point. She said, you don't have to get me a present since you're making my cake. At the time I didn't bring it up since we were in a group setting and I'm a non-confrontational person, that she said she would pay me, so I'd still get her a present, and the fact that the present had already been bought. So I'm in a tough situation of whether to just ask her if she is paying me and cause an awkward situation, or just forget about it and give her the $80 cake and the $30 present. Am I the bad guy for expecting my roommate to pay half the internet bill? My roommate is moving out in for months at the end of our lease. When we moved in together nearly 3 years ago, we made an agreement about splitting bills, 50/50ths, the past month or so. She has primarily been staying with her boyfriend. She believes that because she isn't using the internet and can do without it when she's here, she shouldn't have to pay for it. When I disagreed, her response was that it doesn't make sense. She didn't sign a contract and it's not her bill. I looked into a cheaper plan, and even if I wanted to, I'm not able to reduce it just to my usage unless I sign on to a 24-month commitment. This doesn't make any sense to me to do when we only have 4 months remaining on our lease. Our internet is a fixed rate and we've never split bills based on usage. The electric is in her name, but I wouldn't stay elsewhere before the end of our lease and expect her to take on the bill that I did not sign a contract to pay for. Am I the bad guy for expecting her to uphold her side of our agreement? Am I the bad guy for not allowing my brother to stay with me? I recently moved out of my parents' house and brother Teen has been living with me since then. I take him to work with me because it's summer and he has nowhere else to stay. I went by my family's house to stay for a few days, just to be around them, and was telling my mom simply and calmly that as a young adult, I can't handle taking care of a child, and I need some space, and I can't be the one to tell him every single thing he needs to do. I'm the eldest sibling. I told her that it would be no problem if he stayed until the end of summer, but as soon as school starts she has to take him back, even though my place is closer to his school. She seemingly agrees with me and we sleep on it. The next morning she calls for my brother and starts expressing her disappointment in him, mostly about him not acting responsible and all that. Then she tells him that he's coming back home because he overstayed his welcome. Then she starts giving me the cold shoulder, acting like it's my fault and shouldn't have spoken up. I love my brother and my mom, but am I the bad guy for setting my boundaries? Am I the bad guy for leaving my friend's wedding after they said no +1s, but invited my ex with hers? I'm 25, male, and have been with my girlfriend for about a year. When I got the invite for my close friend's wedding, it said no +1s. I thought it was strange since I knew other people were bringing partners, but I didn't want to argue about it. At the wedding I saw my ex there, not only invited but also with her new boyfriend. I asked the groom about it and he said she's like family, so they made an exception. That really bothered me because my current girlfriend wasn't allowed to come, but my ex and her partner were. I stayed for the ceremony, but left before the reception. Later, the groom texted me saying I was being dramatic and making things about myself. I don't know if I handled it the wrong way, but it felt disrespectful to leave out my partner and still give my ex a special spot. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for shouting at the referee during our football match and getting sent off, which led to my team being scored? It was during an important football match, and from the very beginning, the referee was very partial. Every little mistake from my team was quickly whistled, while the opponents were allowed to foul us repeatedly without any call. At first, I was upset, but when I was clearly pushed down in the penalty box and the referee ignored I lost my patience. I confronted him, telling him he was being unfair. Instead of listening, he warned me to keep quiet. That only made me more furious, and I shouted back at him, and he immediately gave me a red card. Playing with one man down, my team's defense collapsed, and the opponents scored almost immediately. I felt guilty afterward, realizing that my reaction, though caused by the referee's unfairness, had only worsened the situation for my team. Am I the bad guy for telling a potential partner their way of thinking is wrong? I was talking to this person. I was starting to catch feelings for, and I asked them, hey, would you compare your ex to your current partner, physically and emotionally? And they said yes. They said it was normal to compare and human to do so. They went on to say that it would always be in the back of their mind, since their ex had a striking physical quality. If they were with someone who didn't have that same quality, they would immediately think of their ex. For me, if I see someone new in seeing them for them, it's either I like the way they look or I don't, but I don't think of my ex. After hearing this and some other things they've said, it put a bad taste in my mouth, and I told them that their way of thinking is not healthy and they need to change it. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for wishing to go to the beach alone? So recently I found out one of my favorite hobbies involves spending time at a beach. However, I unfortunately happen to be still living in my parents' home and they don't want let me to go. They're alone even though both dislike water activities in general, to the point I would have to drag both there, meaning that I almost get no water time throughout a whole year, if any. I also happen to have no friends but have a job, pay a couple bills with money from the job I have, help with some chores at home, and yet they still want to hold me down for some reason. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for writing up a student for being rude to me? I work as an RA at a private university. Today, I was almost knocked over by several freshmen sprinting down the hall and banging on people's doors. They were already gone, but their friend was still in the hallway. I was on my way to class, so I didn't want to waste too much time, and asked for them to just not do it again, and kept walking. Before I got a few steps away, she scoffed and swore at me behind my back. I turned back around and wrote her up for non-compliance. She yelled at me when I told her I was writing her up, and even started crying, but I went through with it mostly because I was annoyed. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for only letting a guest stay one night and not for the foreseeable future? Saturday night, my girlfriend went out for drinks with a friend. While they were out, my girlfriend's friend found out her boyfriend was cheating on her. They lived together, so my girlfriend told her friend she could stay at ours. When my girlfriend got home, I asked what was going on and she told me her friend would be staying with us for the foreseeable future. I explained that's not practical since we only have one bed. My girlfriend said I could have the sofa for the night and then her friend could stay on the sofa after that. I said no to this and said I'm not going to be kicked out of my own bed. I said her friend can stay on the sofa for the night and then leave the next day. My girlfriend said I was being cruel, but I pointed out she doesn't just get to invite people to stay over without discussing it first. My girlfriend said she wasn't asking for much, but I disagreed and said she'd have to find somewhere else to stay. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for quitting even though my supervisor begged me to stay? I worked at a large company for years, where my main task is to distribute paperwork throughout the company and organize the company's archive. Think of me as a glorified messenger. It's not that I didn't like my job, and my supervisor is a nice person. She's incredibly soft and unable to manage personnel even if they take advantage of her. There are also another 4 people in the department who take advantage and do the least amount of work possible and delegate the rest to me. There is always some excuse, medical, personal, etc. My supervisor always finds some excuse to cover for them while at the same time forcing me to do a lot more work, since she knows that she can't count on them. Yes, she eventually admitted as much. Because of all this extra work, I had a panic attack and resigned. It wasn't a pretty sight. She's been contacting me for over a week begging me to come back. Let's say I said some mean things. I just don't care. So am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for not lowering my commission prices for a friend? So I'm a digital artist trying to get commissions going. I'm still kinda building up my portfolio stuff, but I set my prices where they feel right for where I'm at skill-wise. My friend saw my rates and asked for a cheaper, full-color character piece because we're buds or whatever. I told him my prices are set since it's gotta cover my time and effort. Even as friends, I can't just hand out free work. He got all huffy about it, called me greedy and said I wasn't a real friend if I cared about money over him. The thing is, I offered to do a quick sketch for free, but he shot that down and said it wasn't the same. Now I'm stuck wondering, was I being unfair here? Like, part of me thinks maybe I should have just knocked off a few bucks to keep things chill, but then again, why should I, right? When you put hours into something, it's not exactly charity work even for friends. Am I in the wrong?
Am I the bad guy for wanting my friend to wish me happy birthday? Me, 27 female, and my friend, 27 female, have been planning a trip across the world for months. Now, I've been doing 90% of the work. We have been best friends since high school and always send birthday messages. This past month, I have been losing sleep over how much I have to do for this trip. I've been sending her important things for her to look at, and she says she gets overwhelmed by it all. I do too, because I'm the only one putting effort into this trip. I asked her to do a call with me, 5 or 10 minutes each day, this week leading up to our trip, since she hasn't committed to meeting up in person once a week for discussing all of this. She didn't call. I tried calling her when she said she had time, and her first response was, "I'm actually going to just text you because I have to eat." And then she sent a couple messages and that was it. With all the work I've been doing for her, I thought a birthday message would be bare minimum. I got snippy with her, but I feel bad. I told her that I felt she was leaving me alone to do all of the work. She hasn't responded. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for leaving my boyfriend at home and going to the festival alone? Instead, I, 26 female, planned to go to the Japanese festival with my boyfriend, 31 male, yesterday after work. For context, I was working yesterday until 3 p.m. and he was off. We initially planned to go straight from work, but since it was hot and sunny outside, we pushed it back to later that afternoon. I came home to him sleeping. This was around 3:30-ish. So I decided to just get ready for the festival. Around 4:30, I started waking him up, telling him we're leaving soon. He just turned his back and continued sleeping. By close to 5 p.m, I tried waking him up again, and again closer to 5:30. By the time it was close to 6 p.m, I decided to just leave him and go by myself. A few minutes after I left, he texted me asking where I was. So I told him that I'm already at the festival. He then proceeded to get upset at me for going alone, and told me that he was sleeping, so he can go with me in the afternoon, and didn't want to be under the sun on a weekend as well. I understand that he was working all week and needed some rest, but he was already home all day. I don't know if that's not enough rest for him. I told him I already tried waking him up multiple times, so I just decided to go alone since I didn't want to miss the show. I was also supposed to meet up with some friends, which he is aware of, but I missed them because I got there late. We had a little argument over it, but I told him he can come along if he wants. He never responded. He actually hasn't messaged me since then. So, am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy for asking the server for water before she had a chance to bring some to our table? We sat down for a coffee, and I thought to save her having to come back, then go and get water, I'd ask for it as she went back past our table. I didn't assume she'd bring it. She said yep. I was just going to do that, and it was in a yes, you don't have to ask me kind of way, and I immediately felt bad. I was trying to make it easier for her is basically what I'm saying, but I appear to have made a mistake. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for not wanting my sick friend to attend our party? My partner and I are house and cat sitting for my parents who are out of town, and this Friday we wanted to have a little get together with our friends. The problem is a friend of mine has had bronchitis since the beginning of the week. She's still coughing and told me yesterday she's still out of breath when going upstairs. I told her if she's not feeling well she should not attend so that she can cure herself properly and not infect anyone with bronchitis. You are contagious as long as you cough. She has not taken any antibiotics, so it is viral. For context, I am chronically ill and therefore have to take immunosuppressive medication, which is why I am easily infected by others. Today she told me she will attend and is feeling better. The first day in this week she's feeling better, but she is still coughing. Am I the bad guy for not wanting her to attend? Cause she's still sick, or am I overreacting? Am I the bad guy for asking my girlfriend to call me? So my girlfriend wanted to visit her mom who lives 4 hours away. She said she'd take the bus, but I offered her to take my car and even provided a driver for her. I asked her to call me at 9 AM and she said she'd call me later. Fast forward to 4 PM and she still hasn't called me, but she's already in my car being driven. I asked for clarification and she said I was starting a fight. Am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy for thinking my sister is being overdramatic about being pregnant? I am currently 36 weeks, pregnant with my second child, and my sister is 6 weeks pregnant with her first. She found out she was pregnant 2 weeks ago and ever since then has been complaining about everything. She's been holding her stomach like she has a bump. She's complaining how exhausted she is already and taking at least 2 naps a day, sometimes 3. She's been telling me all about her cravings after 2 days of finding out. She was telling me how much her back and hips have been hurting, that it hurts to sit or walk. Her husband just bought her a pregnancy robe and pregnancy pillow. Now I know how comfy the pillow is, but I'm confused about the pregnancy robe, especially at this early on. Now maybe I'm overreacting and thinking she's being dramatic because of my hormones, but I just feel she's being dramatic. I get every pregnancy is different, that some things just seem a little too much. Am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy for asking a woman at my residential gym to stop talking loudly on the phone during her workout? I live in an apartment building that has a small residents-only fitness center. Recently, one of the new residents started coming in almost every time I'm there. She spends 45 minutes or more talking very loudly on the phone while walking on the treadmill or sitting on the bench. She wears headphones, so she doesn't realize she's basically shouting. Her conversations usually last the entire time she's in the gym. On top of that, she sometimes laughs out loud or drops machine handles, so they slam down with a loud crash. It makes it really hard for anyone else to focus. Most of the other residents are too shy to say anything, so I decided to politely ask her if she could finish her call after her workout. She completely ignored me and kept talking. The next time she came back, she behaved even more disruptively. It feels like she didn't like my comment and is now acting out on purpose. The administration doesn't monitor the gym at all, since it's just part of the building, so there are no staff members around to enforce basic etiquette. I feel like I was polite and reasonable, since phone calls at full volume in a small shared space are disruptive. So, am I the bad guy for asking her to stop talking loudly on the phone in our small residential gym? Am I the bad guy for ignoring a group chat because it's too active? I'm in a group chat with friends, and lately it's been blowing up all day, every day. I muted it because I was getting stressed with constant notifications. It's not an emergency though, just random questions or updates. I started ignoring those messages because I want some time to myself. Am I the bad guy for not replying? Am I the bad guy for refusing to give my roommate a goodnight kiss even though he says it would boost morale? So my roommate 22 male and I, 23 male, were joking around the other night, and he said that since we've been stressed with work and bills, I should give him a goodnight kiss on the forehead to help morale. I laughed it off, but then he actually leaned in and got annoyed when I told him no. He said it's not a big deal and that I was making it weird. Now he's been kind of passive-aggressive, saying stuff like don't forget to tuck me in whenever I head to my room. Some of our friends think I should have just gone along since it's harmless and clearly a joke, but others say it's crossing a line. Am I in the wrong?
Am I the bad guy for keeping packages that were sent to the wrong address? I have this woman that keeps sending her Amazon packages to my house. I've asked her twice now to please stop sending her Amazon packages to my house. The first time I let it slide because I thought that Amazon might have sent them to the wrong address, but they ended up disappearing the next day. The second time I noticed them at my house, I thought it was weird and realized it was the same woman's name. I ended up seeing her and asked her to not send them to my house anymore. Grant you, I have no clue who she is or if she even lives in the neighborhood. Well, today her packages showed up again and I brought them inside. Posted them on our local Facebook page, but haven't gotten any responses. So am I the bad guy for just wanting to keep them? Am I the bad guy for not letting my husband parent? My husband is soul-crushing when he is angry. He doesn't discipline with logic. He flies off of the handle and is just downright mean when the kids are in trouble, so I get in the way of his discipline. Don't get me wrong, I believe in discipline, but I don't believe in breaking someone's spirit or shaming. Am I the bad guy?
Am I the bad guy for sending my friend a photo of my dinner after he told me he was starving? So today my friend and I were discussing the food we were making today. We both love all things culinary and he was telling me about his brisket. He was smoking as he just got a new meat probe. And I was telling him about the pork I was brining. Then he told me the brisket was almost ready. And I told him I was having pizza for dinner and he told me that he was starving and hadn't eaten all day because he couldn't even be bothered making instant noodles. I sent him a picture of the pizza I prepared just before putting it into my electric pizza oven. His response, "Kais, I don't understand why he was so bitter considering his brisket is almost ready by the time this post gets out." It really hurt my feelings as I've struggled a lot with mental health in the past. And he's never said anything so horrible to me like that before. I blocked him on the social media site. We used to talk and he proceeded to text my number telling me I'm overreacting. Am I the bad guy?